toughest lessons I had to learn in the early stages of my real estate career was understanding the ins and outs of all the business you do and how important it is to stay on your P's and Q's about contracts and keeping all your agreements with other agents and with clients in writing. How important is this? Well, let me go over a few different experiences I had, which not only cut off commissions from me, but had me in a state where I had not only had commissions tied up, but it slowed down my progress as I was making progress through my early career. So as a solo agent, it's always very difficult to close on transactions. And working with other agents is the hardest thing because you're not on a team. Everyone, you pretty much carry your own weight. And so the only other agents I liked working with, like if I was working with the buyer, I would work with the seller's agent, or if I was working with the seller, I would work with the buyer's agent on a transaction. And that is pretty much as far as I generally liked working with other agents until I did get some situations where I did referral agreements with other agents. So other agents who were seasoned agents that, had more business and things like that before I had joined. So mind you, this was my early career, but I had very executive level skills entering the field of real estate. I entered the field of real estate in my early 30s, and by that time I had been through several different fields, and I had a very strong educational background. So not only taking the exam was a breeze. I mean, I pretty much took exams for 20 years of my life, so I don't think that was something that was particularly difficult. But at the same time, understanding what you're doing in the field is more important than just regurgitating information you learned from your trainings, in your realty trainings as an early agent. So for people starting off, I highly advise looking into the actual practice of what you're doing. So basically, not just hiring a TC, but understanding your forms is so important. Understanding what you need in writing, how to protect yourself in a transaction, because not everyone is going to be fair or honest when you're dealing with major deals. So let me go over a few examples of how agents took advantage of my agency during transactions. And sometimes people experience the other way around where clients are difficult. You get into a contract with the seller no longer wants to sell, and then things, you're in the middle of a contract with the buyer who's expecting to close. So that's a different situation. What I'm talking about is within the brokerage, like agent to agent type of interactions, and working with agents and protecting your clients while working with other agents and brokerages. So let me start off with referral agreements. So most people see ads where agents have referral fees. Most of the standard is 25%, but some agents charge 30%, and some listing referral agents charge up to 50% of a referral fee in an agreement. So basically the referral fee means that if I have a client, let's say I'm in Los Angeles and I have a client that wants to buy a property in Sacramento. Basically, I contact a Sacramento agent and I say, hey, I have this client, can you go ahead, I have my referral fee is 25%, can you find this client a property? And once you close, you just owe me 25% for giving you this ready buyer. So typically, once that agent signs the agreement, you hand over your client information, introduce them, and then allow that agent to take it away. Generally speaking, when someone has a 25% referral fee, that means the agent that takes over the client gets 75%, right? And so that makes 100% of the commissions you're getting on the buyer side, or seller side if it's a listing referral. So basically, I experienced a situation with a seasoned agent. As a new agent, I experienced with a senior agent providing me a referral fee on a 30% referral fee agreement. So luckily, when I had started working with this client, I already knew about referral fee agreements. Like I had known and studied well the type of contracts I would need in order to work with buyers and sellers and within the brokerage. So I had already had this information under my belt. But what happened was I worked with this agent, and then I secured a property and got a property offer accepted with the buyer. So the buyer was looking for several months. Like, I think this had been like 6 months into the buyer's search for a property, that I finally was able to find a property and get accepted offer at the preferential offer price of the buyer on this property. So once the property offer got accepted, the other agent came back around, and instead of handing the contract to me to close, took over the contract and closed it with the client. So how does this happen, right? So basically, we had in writing, in emails, that, the referral agreement fee was 30%. And for some reason, they thought it would be clever to gaslight me into believing that I am the one that takes the 30%. Clearly, that didn't fly, and I went back and pursued that additional percentage, because at the closing, I was given 30% on a referral agreement for a 30% agreement, meaning that whoever is the procuring cause of the sale is basically the agent that gets the 70%. And even though I was at the time, I only got 30% of that transaction when it closed. And that office management completely turned their backs on me. So they didn't, they turned the other cheek. They didn't even pay attention to me. I requested arbitration. They wouldn't even hear me out. I went to the realtor board. The realtor board was like, I don't know what you want us to do about it. We can't go back. We can't do anything about commission disputes. That you have to take that within the legal section. And so basically that's the avenue I ended up going into. But I would say, even though I did have not only a verbal agreement, but a general industry understanding of what a referral fee is, they still challenge me, for that 30%, you know what I mean? So basically, I was supposed to take 70% of that transaction. I ended up taking 30% and being gaslighted into believing that was the agreement, which industry standard knows what a referral agreement is. So moving on, let's think of ways that we can get beyond understanding, like how to decipher between these types of agreements. So I would say, before working with the client, make sure if you take over a referral client from an agent, you have your referral fee agreement signed up front before you show a single property. And not only do you do that, you also have a buyer agency agreement signed with that buyer before there's a property offer. So not only can you tack that on to any further offer that is made, but you protect yourself in knowing that, okay, I need to pay attention to what's written on the contract, and I need to make sure everything is in writing before working with someone and spending diligent hours, only to be shorted on your commissions. So basically, the second example is co-listing. Be careful co-listing with other agents. Sometimes people are like, you think you are meeting someone with morals, that someone who is ethical and someone who wouldn't break the code just to try to steal a client and transaction from you. But believe me, even though it's good to give people the benefit of the doubt, never put anything past them. So basically, what happened in a situation with the co-listing is that I had a co-listing agreement with another agent. That agent extended the listing agreement because as it was canceling, I decided to transfer that listing with me to another brokerage. That agent behind my back signed an extension agreement with the seller, and the seller believed that I was aware of that extension, which was incorrect. And not only did the seller have me as the main agent, the seller also was ignored by the brokerage when, after I transferred, I sent them my co-listing forms because that was the agreement that I had with the office manager, that once I had all my listings transferred to my new brokerage, they were canceled, and so I uploaded them to my next brokerage. And then that co-listing that was still with the brokerage, was unable to have under my name until I officially joined my next brokerage. So basically I had to leave the brokerage and the listing and then send them my forms for them to sign me back on as a co-listing. And guess what happens? The agent refuses. The office no longer enforced that agent to sign those co-listing agreements. And so that agent and brokerage had the entire time had planned to knock me off a listing that was my direct client, a major listing, and that I actually was in the middle of escrow negotiations with a prospective buyer, which was going to open escrow, and a few days prior to them dropping me from the listing. So not only did they drop me from the listing, they had ignored the client for several weeks. The buyers, fell off and, no longer wanted to move forward. There was a bunch of conflict going on for weeks, and so the property didn't go into contract at that time. But basically, a few months later, actually about 3 or 4 months down the line, the property finally goes under contract with the other agent on it, and the brokerage never released that. They never released that listing. So what happened is it goes under contract, and right before it's about to expire, right before that extension expired, mind you, my name is still on the co-listing, on the co-listing original agreement. So basically, not only did they discontinue with me as co-listing on my own lead, they also take the entire property, and then after months, I finally get a referral agreement signed from the brokerage, giving me 25% of the closing on that transaction on the seller side. So basically, they not only tried to steal from me, they were like, I'm not even going to give you a 50% referral. We're only going to give you 25% on a co-listing that I brought to the other agent without charging that agent. You know what I mean? Because I would say definitely have money in mind before you work with other agents, and secure yourself, secure your transaction, and don't put anything past people, because greed is a crazy thing, and in any industry, they will do anything to ensure that they get the bigger end of the stick. So moving forward, let's talk about brokerage and working with clients. So listing agreements. Make sure that you and your client understand the conditions of canceling a contract. So at the beginning of the listing, this conversation is so important. Knowing how long the listing period is going to be, and making sure your seller does not back out. And if they back out and try to give your listing to another agent, make sure that there are penalties for that. Like, yeah, sure, you can take this listing, but I still want X amount percentage if you want to sign with another agent during my listing period. So once you sign this agreement, if we don't continue for the entire period of the listing, that means I am owed a commission if this goes into contract during the original agreed upon listing period. And that is one of the sections in the new broker compensation agreement and cancellation of listing forms, the updated form. So go ahead and review that, and make sure you pay attention to the beginning and endings of any contract with any client. And also, do not market or work with clients if you do not have an agreement. Pocket listings, no more. I will not ever in my career advertise a pocket listing for free for any sellers without a written listing agreement. And if a seller wants to have a pocket listing that they don't want to put on on the MLS, You need a non-MLS agreement. That's an open agreement, meaning that whatever agent that they're working with, if that agent brings them a buyer and secures a transaction, that it basically becomes that agent's listing. And I think that's the smartest way to approach a pocket listing and off market, because at the same time, off markets, people like off markets because of the flexibility of them. They like the idea that it's a property not everyone on the market can see, and they like the idea that the sellers are not publicly listing their property for sale. But there are a lot of protections that off market listings don't have. So one important fact of information is do not advertise, do not send pictures, do not send anything to market a listing, even if it's off market, unless you have something in writing signed by the seller saying that if you market this property and bring them a client, that you get the commissions that you agree upon upfront. And don't trust their word. Like I said, give people the benefit of the doubt, but don't put anything past them. And most importantly, make sure you are able to brush things like that off. I mean, even though I should be feeling absolutely devastated and pulling my hair out, I invest in my self-care and my sanity by mental health practices to allow me to not take these things too personally and to understand that people's morals and personal behaviors are not your problem. If people betray you, that allow them the accountability to feel the effects of their betrayal. If you are in the right, stand in the right and help other people understand how they can navigate through these situations and still win without losing out on their hard work. Anyways, those were some of the tough lessons I learned in real estate, and those were some important key considerations that you need to make when working with either clients and especially with other agents.